Okay, going on to the gasket then. Let's go ahead and make this a little easier. We'll just hide. And I think I'll stay with the revolves. If we wanted to, we could offset a plane. I will put out the warning that we could open up a sketch on this face and extrude up, but now we're tying the gasket to the base chamber. So if something changes on the base chamber gets deleted, we have a lot more prone to error than if we tie it directly to the single point of failure, the layout sketch or our envelope sketch if we'd created one of those. So in managing the geometry, we are going to, let's go ahead and collapse that back out. Let's see what we can find, see if there's another way to get into that new component. So if I go to S key, and we're going to do a new part. We could insert a new subassembly. That gets a little complicated. I'm not real fond of doing a new assembly within the assembly. There are times where I find that this assembly really could use a couple of subassemblies, and then I would create the subassemblies, drag parts in. That also has issues with the mate reference, so you have to be careful with all of the things that are going on because it can get pretty sketchy pretty quick. I create the new part. We go ahead and escape, or I just clicked out into to space. If we were to pick the front plane, for instance, it would automatically go in and be editing that part. I kind of like to do the rename and perform that little function before I get into the part. So when I edit that part, we're going to again be sketching on the front plane. And this time I will highlight the part. Last time we did the convert from the S key, so this time we'll go up to the command manager. Since that comes in as an object line, we'll switch it over to the construction line or center line. Pull the rectangle, go from corner to corner, and right into features to revolve, 360 degrees on the revolve. And one of the things is, as you get into this, if you look over and you don't see the blue and you see that you're in a sketch at the assembly level, that becomes a little more complicated. So future sketches are going to appear lower because we start entering the features. There's not really a mechanism to put them back at the top if that's what we need. All right, so in our sketch, let's go. Let's stay with the whole wizard, and on this part, I am trying to go back to the command manager, so I don't. Now that I'm in the habit of doing the S key, I don't just do the S key. So we're looking for the whole wizard, and with the edit component and being inside of the assembly, everything shifted over a little bit, so I'm having to look for it. All right, so this will be a simple. I do not want the dowel holes. I would like to have just the drill sizes. Dowel holes give a little more tolerance for the geometry to be a press fit, a clearance fit for the pin. Since we're placing hex head screws in this, then this one also came up inch pound second. So I'm going to have to look at my default files, and since I didn't do it on the other one, and it's really not critical because the millimeters, it's just confusing me a little bit. The millimeters are coming out of the assembly, and the size is showing up correct. So we did the sketch pattern previously. We'll go ahead and generate another one real quick. So the linear sketch pattern, we go to circular sketch pattern, total of 8. And then we go ahead and hit OK. There are times where dimensioning the radius and the angular spacing is nice. I would say tinker with those. and pick up strategy. Since that's going to a defined point, not really the coincident on the base circle, should define in 1. So there is our gasket, and then I click to exit the editing context, and we can rebuild and save, and we'll tell it to save all. And then this is the warning as we add these components. Do you want to save internally? Eventually I'll get tired of seeing this and I'll say do not show again, because I'm in that process, and I will save externally when I am ready to. So if we right click and we hide the virtual component, then we can move on to the last. And so let's see, we did the S key, we've been doing the insert. I don't think there's anything on the task pane. Let's see if we right click. Yeah, don't really have any tools, so we'll stay with the S key or insert component. Let's check the the assembly pull down. There we go, new part. And again, escape or click. And this is going to be the chamber cap cover plate. And realistically, you can call these whatever you want. All right, so the cover plate, we edit the part. We go into the front plane, open up the sketch. We'll go back into our rectangle, draw the body. And I do not have something to revolve around, so we need to pick that. I think it picked anyway. We'll go back into the convert. Make sure that it is a center line. We don't want it to participate. And it might not bother, but it'll find the center lines where the object line we would have to select it. All right, so this time I generated the hole first, or with the model, so we're not going to do the hole wizard. And actually I wanted the hole locations to show, and we'll right click and hide the layout. And for our feature then, let's go into the S key this time for the hole wizard. We're still in the 10 millimeters up to next, and I can do the position. And pretty much this is a review of what we did in the multi-body, just to give you options. And there are times where it's nice to have it in the sketch. There's other times where you get enough holes that in the pattern that it's easier to make this a sketch-driven pattern. So if we go back to the features, under linear pattern, we'll find a circular pattern for the geometry. And actually, that's what I should have done on the gasket. So let's just compare those two. The circular pattern and the direction, if we don't have something convenient, like a cylinder, we can go up to the view and turn on temporary axes. So I think last time we picked the cylinder, I can pick a temporary axis as the same, and then go back and turn it off, and that will work fine. If I suppress that out, and pretty much the circular pattern is going to have the sketch pattern that we did is going to be defined by the 8, where we're trying to make this to where it points back to the hole locations, and this is related to the point. So I pick the feature again as a pre-select, go into the sketch-driven pattern, and then the selection will be expand out the flyout, and I should be able to find the hole locations. It generates the geometry, and occasionally it will have some issues where it'll recommend turning on the geometry pattern. We can try that. It's just a matter of how much it tries to solve or refine those geometries. All right, so now we need the cosmetic thread. We can go insert annotations, and Cosmetic Thread. Right, so this is what the whole wizard is doing for us automatically. It finds that we are the 24.3, and we'll do the up to next in condition. So I'm still clicking on the outside going in. If something happened that I wanted to switch this over to, again, a tapered or a different size, then we would have to go adjust this Cosmetic Thread automatically, where the whole wizard, or we'd have to perform it where the whole wizard would do it automatically. And then I decided I didn't really want to see the machine threads. So we'll uncheck the show type and go ahead and generate our geometry. All right, so up to this point, let's go ahead and hide the whole locations, and we'll expand out, and I can manage those geometries. Interesting, kind of got a video blip with the base. So we'll see if that corrects itself. All right, so at this point, we could go ahead and generate the toolbox, bring in the fasteners. I'm going to bypass that this time and go straight to the exploded view. So new exploded view, and I'll bring up the first part, and then since we're in the assembly, this should go back to millimeters. We'll bring out the second one, and then of course if we had the hex bolts or washers or anything in there, be able to perform that first. So let's go 100 millimeters and make sure to hit done to apply it, and then maybe 40 millimeters looks pretty good, and apply it. And so this geometry is applied directly in the assembly. All the parts are internal to the components, and the main thing is kind of like the multi-body. I could leave it at this stage and wouldn't really have to do anything else to this geometry if it was a single piece that we're trying to work with. So let's collapse it, and we'll go back and just double click, make sure it gets saved. Save all, save internally, and I'd be interested in seeing how this reacts with the drawing. So we'll do the new, and I'll stay with my landscape, and we're looking for the open geometry. So there is my pressure cylinder top down. Let it update, and our first sheet we can do the exploded view. And if we expand that out, then we would need to do something similar, and this is where the virtual component and the multi-body differ. If I bring that in on the front view, I'm still working out of the assembly, so my naming convention, some of the other things become a little bit more complex. So I don't know that this lends itself in the same way of having those individuals. So I would have to maybe create configurations or hide, suppress those files out. That doesn't give me the same kind of functionality. So that being the case, now let's see if there's anything on the right mouse button just real quick. Don't need to, didn't realize there was a show an exploded state available. So I'm really not seeing it. So we'll go ahead and delete that view. Since it's tied to the assembly, I can switch back to the cylinder. And up to this point, I can rename these anything that I want. So if I wanted to call these top down, and I'll do that for two of them, and then we'll take a look at the gasket. And up to this point, it's relatively easy to rename. If we go back, then it's going to, when we do the rename out of the File Explorer, it's going to have to tie back to the assembly. So, external references, go back and we're just going to select all of those so that it can output. We're going to save part in external file. Good idea. I'm just going to put as the same as the assembly, and we'll hit OK. And I can't rename this while it's open. Notice that the brackets went away. I can't rename the cover plate while it's open, so we're going to save one more time. Nothing really changed. It didn't do it like the save bodies. It didn't output it. It just put it in the folder that we're working with. So, oh, my splash screen came up. So we're in assignment 10. And even so, this one's still going to be open. There's a reasonable possibility. Let's go ahead and save our pressure cylinder drawing so we don't have to initiate that again. And we should be able to come over to the File Explorer, see if there's anything open in SolidWorks. Yeah, we'll try it. Let's just see what we can do with the rename. So I don't just want to click and do the Windows rename. I want to go into the SolidWorks and rename so that it finds the associated drawing, that connection back to the top-down assembly. And then if we're calling this the top-down cover plate, then I can hit OK. If there were still virtual components and I was renaming the assembly itself or doing something higher level, then I could include virtual components and make sure that those are part of the selection set. All right, so it was didn't carry it over into memory. Not new, I want to open recent. So we'll open that back up and we'll verify. And the worst case, if it didn't make the connection to the cover plate, the worst case is that I have to pick its name, its location, reassociate it to the geometry. Most of the time, that's going to work. All right, and then our first pass on the drawing. Go back into the view palette. Now I have access to those individual components. We'll grab the base chamber. And let's go ahead and bring in the top view. Go ahead and bring off an isometric view, and then under the drawings we'll go into the section view. Again, there are arcs, single offsets, notch offsets, depending on what we're trying to present. Most of our sections are just going to be, I want to see what's inside. And then we'll set up for the gasket. So I've been using the view palette quite a bit. So the gasket comes in as the top. Projected view will bring it off to the side, over for the isometric, and reposition it. We'll add another sheet. Or in the case of doing one part file per sheet, we would just open up the next sheet and insert. So let's see the drawing, the model view. So going the other way, we'll browse to the cover plate. Okay, and then the advantage of the model view is it brings in several views at a time. You don't really have to do the projections. And we want to go to the top. It's always going to warn us that if you've applied any dimensions, you're about to lose them. The isometric didn't update, but that's fine. And there we have our first pass ready to go through, apply dimensions, verify that the the layers and the other properties worked okay, and we have our geometry.